what's going on, bud?
And I appreciate you coming on. I've been actually really excited for this one. Um, Me and you had met at one of my events. What was it, 3, 4 years ago now? At this point,
Uh,
Whew.
Maybe at least 3 to 4, I think, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Time flies. It really just meshes together. Honestly, after COVID, I feel like we just put like, when you go to a movie, you put like 1 times 10, 1 times 5, and it fast forwards to it.
Yes,
That's what I feel like because it's just like it's all a blur at this point.
it
You
is.
know, with COVID, it's like that the mask thing is like so stuck in your head, and now it's like, wait, that was 5 years ago. It feels like it was like 3 months ago.
It is really crazy because even like some friends and stuff that like I still look like I have a few friends that are much younger, like
Yeah,
early 20s, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, what are you, like 22? And they're like, I'm 26 now. That was like 4 years ago, and I'm like, okay. They just
like
kind of
relax.
it's like 2020, 2021, even parts of 22, they all just blended together,
Yeah, man,
and it
we
really
were
just
on
changed
that.
the dynamic for a lot of people, including myself on certain aspects.
Dude, it changed the game for everybody. I feel
Yeah.
that changed the life of everything. But yeah, when I met you at my event, man, we kind of clicked right there. I was like, this guy, he's one of us. Like
Yeah.
I'm one of him. He's one of us. Like I was saying before, I like to do some like digging on like your background, and so I can get some really good questions. So we're not just sitting here just duh, you know. But one thing I wanted to say to get it started is I wanted to show you this, and I think this is going to be a good segue. Tell me what this means to you.
That Dorian Yates on the cover of Flex.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you did pretty good with that. You did pretty good with that. I've done it a couple interviews before. One with this Italian-based company because I am Italian and stuff, and I kind of told my story. And Dorian Yates, that he is the reason why I got into bodybuilding. Um, I was like 8 years old, and I like my parents let me watch rated R movies a lot. Like the first movies I remember at 3 years old was Peter Weller just getting absolutely destroyed by shotgun barrage by Clarence Bodiger and RoboCop. You
Yep.
know, I'm like 3 years old just watching that, and you just see arms blowing off, and he's just like,
Yep.
just getting shot up. I remember the first movie I ever remember watching as a kid was The Lost Boys with my dad.
Love it. Yep.
I love vampires.
Bro,
I
me
grew up
too.
watching RoboCop, Rambo, Commando, Raw Deal, Terminator, and I watched those at an early age. So I mean, I always thought it was cool to see like Arnold just being like this just massive human being. Sylvester Stallone just ripped out of his mind in Rambo
Yep.
2, you know, and I always liked that. Plus, my mom's side of the family, I have three uncles that all did powerlifting. They all do physical therapy. A few of them have their PhDs in that, and
Nice.
they're always like, "Yeah, Chris, flex your muscles and stuff." And even when I graduated preschool, right? My uncles were like, when you get up on stage, when you get your diploma, you got to make sure you flex your muscles. So here I am graduating preschool. I grabbed my diploma and I literally just hit like a front double bicep,
Love
then
it.
like the most muscular. The whole
Oh,
crowd went nuts. I thought it was so cool.
dude,
And
amazing. First of all, amazing. I can only imagine you up there just like hitting the most muscular. Like, oh,
I can't even imagine. It was probably like 40 pounds. Who knows how much I weighed? Probably less. I don't even know.
amazing.
Here I am up there just flexing on people. Um, but yeah, and I always liked I always like comics and stuff like that. And I remember when I was 8 years old, I always loved running errands with my dad on Saturday. Like we'd have like a list of things to do. We'd go, and after he was done with everything, we'd go out to eat, or he'd take me to the movies or arcade or something fun. So I always looked forward to Saturdays with my dad. And I remember he was running around doing some stuff, and I was reading a Hulk comic, and I happened to look over and I saw Dorian Yates on a cover of Flex magazine, and I was just like, I started flipping through the pages, and I saw him with the veins everywhere, and he's just huge. And I'm looking at him,
Yep.
and I'm looking at the Hulk comic, and I'm just like, my dad come over and was, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "Is this guy real?" I'm like, "He's like the Hulk." My dad's like, "Oh yeah, no, that's a bodybuilder. Like that, literally, all they do is eat, sleep, train. It's a full-time job, is what they do, and it's a lot of hard work." And I was like, "I'm gonna look like this someday." My dad's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." He's like, "Yeah, a lot of hard work." So that was like my whole reasoning for getting into whole bodybuilding back at such a young age,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I think
And
that always how that's how it usually starts, and because we were very similar in the old school mindset. We were brought up in the early '90s, like late '90s, early 2000s. Like we got the generation of the hardcore guys. You
yeah.
know, like we got the smack in the back of the head. What the fuck you doing? This is how you do it. That tough love where you didn't have to tell me 10 more times. You told me that once and I understood it.
Well, I was a little bit different with that. Where so my dad grew up in Brockton. My grandfather, who recently passed away, also grew up in Brockton. Um, strong Italian family, and if you fucked up, you found out.
Yeah.
Like the whole phrase, like fuck around and find out. I was like the poster child for that because I just like push. I would always push the envelope. I'd be like a little shit, to
Yeah,
my
yeah,
parents, and I'd get like a backhand, or like my dad would just straight up just like throw body shots at me. And like I would listen. I want to put out there like I have a very good relationship with my whole family. I love my father, my dad, my mom. I was never like beaten or abused, but I
yeah.
was disciplined harshly. And I think there's a fine line where people nowadays might be like, "No, you were abused." No, I wasn't. I
No.
was an asshole,
Yep.
and I got punished for it.
Yep.
You know,
Agreed.
and he'd definitely just he'd be like, "Oh, just walk it off, Chris. Just rub some dirt on it. Stop crying. You're good." And I
Yep.
just stop
Yep.
crying. Because at that point, like, there was a lot of like male bravado between like my uncles and my dad and stuff. Like the last thing I ever wanted to do was disappoint them and
Yeah.
look weak.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and
Especially when
it
you have
definitely,
so, especially when you have all those like big dudes around, and it's like, no, these are men, and it's kind of like you have something to look at. And it's funny that you were saying about the movies before. You can tell nowadays the generation they don't have anything to look up to. There's no Rambo movies. Everything's just so woke, and there's no real man to take that lead. Where we grew up in the '80s, where it was like Rambo. You got Arnold there, just hitting different Sylvester Stallone, all these guys. Nowadays, who do you really got? You know what I mean? So it's like there's no kid.
Chris
Kids don't really have
Helmsworth,
anybody to look to. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
you
So,
know,
yep. But
Jason
that's
Momoa,
why,
like, he hates working out. He's even said that on interviews.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
dude. It's wild. You know what I mean? Like, I'll say this, and I'll probably get some hate for this. The whole Arnold thing kind of, unfortunately, they say don't meet your idols. Kind of one of those things where it's like, damn, man, I wish you were one of us still.
yeah. You mean when he said like the "screw your freedoms" thing like a while ago?
Yeah,
It's hard because I hated to see him say that, but
same.
like those guys are in different positions than we are. Who knows what stress and what other manipulation that goes on where it kind of forces the hand.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not in that position to be able to make those calls, and it's like if he's got to make that call, people are telling him he's got to make that call. You know,
Yeah. I mean, there's
so
been plenty of other actors that have completely stood up to the whole thing, like Sylvester Stallone, one of them, completely.
yeah,
Even Trump, I think, just appointed him as like him and John
Mel
Voight,
Gibson.
Angelina Jolie's dad, and
Yep,
Mel Gibson as
yep.
like emissaries or something for Hollywood.
Beautiful. Bring back the old movies. That's where, like you were saying, Lost Boys. Dude, that ambiance is just like early '80s California, where like the beach is there. It's just everybody's trying to have a good time. Like, bring back those kind of movies. Where it's like there's no agenda base. It's just these are fucking where it's at. This is a cool story. Let's see what happens and throw everybody into it.
I think unfortunately, even if they did bring back those movies, it's not going to hit the same. I think for you and I, like I think it'll be like a good relief to see that on the screen,
Yeah,
but it's not going to be like that 80s style film. Like the
yeah,
closest show that gave me that vibe was Stranger Things, the series.
yeah.
And I
Agreed.
thought they did a really good job bringing that 80s vibe with the music, just the whole intro, how it was filmed, even like the way like the picture was on
Yeah,
the TV. I thought they did a good
absolutely,
job with
dude.
that. But like those are things that are just long gone, I think, unfortunately. And like, that I just go back just watching movies like that. Like
That's
I
where I'm
watched
at.
Showdown in Little Tokyo the other day with Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren.
Love it. Love it.
Dolph Lundgren literally flips a fucking car. He flips a car on its side to like block from bullets. It's like hell yeah. You know,
So,
You saw
You
that
know?
stuff, and these were like guys that were very muscular and stuff that were like doing some cool things, and you're like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a completely different era. And I think this kind of is a good segue into like who you are as a person. Now, when I first met you, you're a big boy. Like, you've been in this industry for a long time. When did you start becoming like more noticeable? Because you got a good amount of sponsorships. I see you with gas. I see you with a couple of prep companies. You're with Better Bodies, things like that. How did you get into that realm? Like, where first of all, where did you start? What years did you kind of start to where you're at
Um,
now, in the sense?
okay, so when I first, I always wanted to get into bodybuilding. This is kind of a long story here for me to say it. I think to give everyone like a cool picture of it.
Please.
I played high school sports, and then my senior year in high school, like I stopped playing all sports. All I wanted to focus on was lifting. And that was when I started, like, I'd buy the muscular development magazines every month, the Flex, Muscle Mag. I think Iron Man was another one I would get. And I'd look at all that stuff, and I liked reading up on everything. And then in 2003, I was a freshman in college because I graduated high school in 2003. But then in the fall of 2003 was like my freshman year in college. And there was a nutrition company around the Northeastern campus in Boston, and my friends went there. And I think it was called like Nutrition Edge or Nutrition One. I forget what it was, but Ronnie Coleman was friends with the owner, so he was doing the guest appearance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was 18 years old. I was about 155 pounds.
Yep.
I'd been lifting for about a year, and I thought I was big back then. You
Yeah.
think
Yeah. 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 We all
I
do.
put on like from 17 years old, from summer of my junior year into senior year, I put on like 30 pounds, of good muscle. So
That's
here
good.
I am thinking I'm like really cool. So I went to go see Ronnie Coleman because I was always blown away by the pictures in the magazines, and I met him, and that was, he was like 330 pounds. He just destroyed and just decimated everyone at the 2003 Olympia, and I just was just like,
Yep.
he was sitting there like signing autographs. The bicep vein was like a garden hose. It was like that.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this,
Yeah. Yep.
So I knew I was small, so I wanted to have like a certain level of musculature, I guess, before I attempted to do competing. I had wanted to compete for a while, but I also knew it was a big commitment. I'd probably
Mhm.
say around that time mentally I wasn't mature enough to really do a prep. Like I still wanted to go out and have time with my friends and enjoy that life before I
Absolutely.
do this. But I always was lifting and training hard. And I had every intention from that at that point to get on stage. I competed naturally a couple times in like 2008,
Nice.
OCB and everything, and then I did my first NPC show, which I was still natural for. All I took was ephedra,
Nice.
ephedra alkaloids, like the good stuff, the mahang
Dude.
extract,
Oh my
right? The
God.
good
The best
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, so I
Uh,
took that. I competed in 2009. It was the MPC Northern Cup. I got first place in light heavyweight. I didn't win the
nice.
overall. And one of the gyms I actually go to every once in a while, my old stomping grounds called Bayshore. The owner of that gym won the overall at that show, so that's how I became friends with him.
Oh, good shit.
Yeah, and then I did another natural show in the BLMPA, which I don't even think this organization's even around anymore. It's like some alphabet organization.
Yep.
And I remember I was competing on stage, and I had a thick look to me because I've always just trained super heavy and intense. Like that's just I grew up watching Ronnie and Branch, Johnny
That's something
Jackson.
we're gonna get to because that's
Yeah,
something.
so yeah, so like I had a look to myself, and there were people in the audience yelling steroids, and it was really disrespectful.
Yeah.
And every time I did the OCB shows, I was always the one that got random drug tested
Yeah.
every time. I'm like, okay, they
Random.
basically were like, you look NPC, you probably won't do well in this organization. And I didn't really know what that meant. And then when I
Yeah.
finally figured it out, I was like, fuck that. And I was
Yeah.
like, then I was on stage, in 2010, people were yelling that stuff, and I got off. I'm like, you know what? And I was like, fuck this. I'm like, fuck these organizations. I'm just going to focus on going NPC route. And I competed in 2012, did a few shows in 2013, did another show in 2014, which I got really sick doing that. I was just pushing my body too hard. I was actually in the ER at 8 days out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I shouldn't even compete in that show, but I kind of was one of those things. It's like I'm probably gonna look like shit on stage, but I just want to see it through.
Absolutely.
And it
Yep.
was, and so like 2013, right? I went through like a really shitty breakup at the time, and I kind of had I wanted to just run and get away. So I
Yep.
left my job. I moved 3,110 miles across the country by myself. I lived in a trailer park out in
Wow.
Washington. And at that point I started focusing on, I didn't know what else to do at the time. So I just focused on like trying to build my social media. I got Instagram in 2012 and I started reaching out to different companies that I liked to see if I could get like a sponsorship. And then 2014 came around and iForce Nutrition reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to bring you on as an athlete. Like we see a lot of potential in this and that. So that was how I got brought on in the industry with iForce Nutrition. I had like a basic contract that wasn't paid.
Yeah.
I got like a bunch of free stuff every month, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had they had a decent social media presence, and Jose Raymond and Dusty Hanshaw, they
Yep.
were athletes at the time, so I got to do some stuff with Jose because he's around the area.
I was just gonna say, does that help? Like, did that kind of help in a sense
It
having him
did,
in the
it did.
area?
It did, and then what was really cool is they came out with a pre workout called Max Out, and I was actually in a bunch of the ads. So I was like, 2014, it was cool because the first ad that I was in had Dorian Yates on the cover, so I was like super
Nice.
excited about that.
Hell yeah.
And that was when I got into that. So I was in like every Flex magazine for a few years, every MD for the ad. It was like me and Jose were in the ad, so it was pretty cool. I had my
That's sick.
Instagram name in there at the time, so like I got a lot of followers and stuff from that, which really helped. And then what I did is they made me actually the athlete manager for iForce. So I would like make sure all the athletes were doing their posts. I'd have like all these Excel spreadsheets. I helped sign on some new athletes and stuff. Sometimes they wouldn't let me sign athletes that I wanted to. Sean Clarita was actually one that I was trying to sign back in the day.
Damn.
He had like 8,000 followers, and they're like, no, we can't sign him and stuff. And I'm
Yep.
like, you guys are making a mistake, type of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
You
Fast
know,
forward.
yeah. And then what was pretty cool with that is, High Tech used to make the products for iForce. And then, the owner of iForce, Dave, he ended up selling his company to High Tech. So that's when Dave got brought on. So then I kind of got brought on as an athlete that way.
Oh shit.
And
Okay.
then they were like, I was at the Olympia in 2015. I was with Ian Valier was sponsored with iForce. I ended up signing him, and
Nice,
We had Brooke Walker too. She was like top three Olympian for women's
bro.
physique,
What a
right?
lineup. Phew,
Yeah, yeah, it was
what a
great.
lineup.
We had a lot of fun there, and I ended up just like crushing the booth. And I helped close, I guess, like a six-figure deal with some international guys. And
Nice.
that was when the owner was like, owner Dave was like, hey, you want to take on like a more prominent role here? And that was when he was kind of spitballing with me with that sense. And then what happened was that's when he ended up selling to High Tech.
Which
And then
which
and
makes
that's
which makes sense. And I don't mean to cut you off, but it makes sense why you were able to do that because like you're a scary dude. But realistically, when you open that door, like, one thing I love about you is that if I don't like you, you're gonna fucking know. If I
yep,
like
oh yeah,
you, you're gonna know.
absolutely,
And you have that welcoming feeling. It's like if I let you in, you got one chance to let me know I like you or I don't like you. I'll figure it out. And that's what I think, your judgment on character plays a big role because yeah, you could be a goofball, yeah, you could be serious, but then there's also business you.
yeah,
Where it's like,
yeah,
dude, I'm not here to hurt your feelings. This is what I'm looking for. You figure it out. If we can do it, if not, not a big deal.
yep,
So I wanted to preference that because again, you are a scary dude when you see your lifts when like in the intro, you're squatting 800 pounds, you're hack squatting fucking 8 plates on each side. Like you're a no joke kind of dude, but then at the same time, it's just like, no, if I like you, you'll know.
yeah. In my earlier years, it was always tough because I would always try to see the good in people and ignore some of the red flags, and I got screwed over quite a bit over the years. Now,
Yeah,
not so much anymore.
yeah, yeah,
You
exactly.
know, kind of like
Yep.
fool me once, fool me twice. I mean, I've probably been fooled like 8 times before. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do
I'm the
that
same way,
anymore.
man. I'm the same
You
way.
know,
Yep.
yeah,
But I didn't mean to
and
cut you off. So you were saying from that point on, they were asking you to go into a bigger route.
Yeah, yeah.
role.
So that, and then they sold to high tech, and then they're like, hey, you're up in the Northeast, like we need someone to run the Northeast. So then I got brought on high tech as a dual role as an athlete and also as like the sales director for the Northeast, and I've been doing that since 2016.
Nice.
And it's been great because I get to travel all in the Northeast. I got 14 states of territory that I deal with. It's not like your typical 9 to 5 job. Sometimes I work more because I'm traveling. Other times it's like I'm only doing a few good hours of real work. Then it's like prospecting, just kind of making phone calls, bullshitting with people, just to
Yep.
keep the face and relationship, which is great. I absolutely love it. But I've met tons of people while traveling, like you. I've trained at probably 300 different gyms across the country.
Yeah.
Some in Canada that I've been to and everything, and that's been great. And that opened the door for all the other sponsorships that I've gotten. The three big ones I've been with for a very long time. High tech, um, Tough Wraps,
Yep.
and then I've been with Tough Wraps since 2015. So I'm like their longest.
I was just gonna say it's funny because realistically, you're sponsored by, in my opinion, three of the most loyal the company have been in the industry for a long time. High tech. First of all, I give all respect to those guys. First of all, for beating the FDA off that 1,3 dimethylene bullshit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like once that had happened, I was like, high tech is where it's at because they stood on business.
they
They weren't
did, and that's
folding.
that's what they do. Yeah,
That's exactly it. And you could tell by just the product and the integrity by the company. And as soon as I seen that, even my business partners opened my factor. We're like, oh no. And then also you being the rep, I'm like, this is a fucking no brainer. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And then you got Tough Wraps, which amazing. All their products amazing, dude. I use their wrist wraps all the time. Now, how did you get to that? Like, you just kind of send your videos out because you do lift heavy.
So one of the first athletes that was with Tough Wraps was this guy named Leroy Walker. He had like a 675 raw bench. So at one point he was like one of the top 10 raw benches in the world. Now he does arm wrestling, and I think he still holds like the strict curl world record. Like he's just a mutant. And
Yep.
he used to be one of the athletes with LG Sciences, which is a company that High Tech owned. Um, so him and I were always talking and stuff, and he's like, I had already owned Tough Wraps products. I was already a customer.
Yeah.
And I made a post one time, and I think I tagged him, and Leroy saw it, and he goes, "Hey," he's like, would you ever think about like working with these guys, doing like collab or something like that? I'm like, absolutely. I'm like, I love their products. I stand by it. And that's when the owners Sonia and Jason, they were like, "Hey, we want to bring you on as an athlete." And I've been with them like ever since. And I love I'm very loyal to companies. If
Yeah.
I believe in whatever it is that they have, I will push it till I'm blue in the face, just because I believe in it.
Yeah. It's true.
And then
With your integrity. With the
yeah,
integrity that you have, it's like if I don't believe in it, it's going to be hard because now I've been scripted. Where if you do believe in something, you can just kind of shoot off the cuff with everything, and
yeah,
and that's what I've noticed with myself. I can't like owning the supplement shop. If I don't think it's good, regardless of the owner, I'm just going to tell you it's not. Like I don't personally enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's the same. It's smart that way because you're not selling your soul.
No, I can't do that. It's really, I mean, I've actually gotten a lot of offers like towards the end of last year from a few other supplement companies, and I'm like, no. I turned
Yeah,
every single one of them down.
I don't blame you, man. Honestly.
Respectfully, of course.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's always good to get those, like, there's a little bit of like, hey, listen, I'm still who I am. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
everybody still sees the value in who you are. And the crazy part is, you're not even IFBB pro.
No, I
You've
was
just
just
been
gonna say
in the
that. I'm like, I'm not,
industry.
I'm not a pro at all, but I think it comes out to just working well with companies.
Yep,
Like Guy Sistonino is a very, very close friend of mine.
love guy.
He's actually a groomsman in my wedding, which is gonna be later this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, congratulations on all that, by the way, too,
Oh
my
yeah,
man.
thank you. Yeah,
It's
it
a
was a
big
good
year for
last
you.
year was a good year. We
Yeah, it
got a
was.
house, we got engaged the week after. Really, really, really good year.
And then
Very
you competed
excited.
in nationals too.
Yeah, yeah, it was my all-time best there. Judges didn't like my look that day, but that's okay. It happens.
Yeah. But you know what? That's not even the big peak for me. It was literally the Long Island. When you went to Long Island and you were having that battle, Like I
Yeah.
forget what his name. I forget what his name is. Slipped my mind. That tall motherfucker. And I've been
Giovanni.
watching him come up. Yeah, I've been watching him
Yeah.
come up since he was this big, and
Yeah.
now it's just cool to see him be like the guy. You know. So it's
He's a great dude too. He's really good, you know. And it was interesting because I'm like I knew I wasn't going to beat him
yeah,
just because I knew he was at his best for that show and I wasn't at my best for that show. Even if I
yeah.
wasn't my best, I don't know if would beat him or not. But I mean, I was like, I'm like, oh man, I'm like figures like I'd have a chance of winning this overall. Then this freak shows up, more of a freak, you know. So I had
Bro,
fun. I'm like, oh,
freak.
I'm gonna leave it all on that stage and the pose down on the for the overall. So and
Absolutely.
he's a good dude, another Italian guy. So great
Yeah,
guy,
he
and
great guy.
he
I've been
turned
watching
pro at
his.
nationals, so I was very excited for him.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing is like in this sport, the guys that I always say this is like the guys that know like we don't give a fuck, like we're not gonna talk shit about you, like you're gonna be the next guy, you know what I mean? It is what it is. It's the little guys that talk shit to get some kind of attention, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's always people below you that are like, "Hey, you suck,"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
they're yelling up
exactly.
at you. You
Yep,
know, like if you start a business, someone starts a business or whatever. Like I have a coaching business, you know, like people like you're never gonna see someone above me that's being like, "You're an idiot." They're gonna be like, "Good for you."
yep,
There's gonna
completely
be
agree.
people that there'll be people below you like, oh, it's a stupid idea. You're gonna fail. And then when you stop being successful, they're like, oh, you're just lucky. And it's like I busted my ass for everything that I had. I had nothing fucking handed to me.
Yep. You know
Worked
what's
my
funny?
ass off one way or another, where I was putting myself out there, constantly networking, always staying true to my word, always trying to, not being a fake ass
Yeah.
on social media, you know?
Yep. Well, you know, it's funny you say that is that the industry, I was actually having this conversation. The industry is always ready. People are always ready to bite at you. So, for example, with the whole Matt Jensen thing, as soon as he made some mistakes as a coach, everybody dog shitted him. But 5, 7 years before that, everybody was sucking his dick. You know what I mean? And when he decides to make a decision, hey, I'm stepping down, and it's like, oh, I told you this, I told you that. It's like, listen, the guy made a couple mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Did he change everything he needed to do? Yeah. But it's funny how the industry will turn on you as soon as they feel like you're not the guy anymore.
So when I was looking really good in 2014, and obviously I was sick before, and I still got on stage, and I just looked fucking terrible. I was really watery, like looked like I gained like 20 pounds of fat in that peak week.
Damn.
My body just wasn't responding to stuff. It was just really stressed out. I pushed too hard, and like I did a video for muscular development with my training partner Matt, and Ron Harris was one that videoed it before. I was in all the ads and stuff, so I had a lot of momentum going in, and then I just fucking shit the bed like the week before. And you know
Yep.
what? Something it's like no one gives a shit if you're sick. No one
No.
cares.
No.
And it was interesting. That was when like people that were talking to me would just stop talking to me when I just looked like crap on stage. So 2014, I learned back then how rough the fitness industry can be.
Yeah.
Any industry can be like that too. You're on top of the world, and all of a sudden you dog shit to everybody. There's no
Yep.
need for you. So 2014, when that happened, that was kind of the reason why I stopped competing for a while.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I didn't start competing until 2022.
Yeah, I was gonna say you recently just started competing, and that's
Yeah,
why I was actually looking because I was trying to figure out where those dates were because your first show from being 2013, taking winning, and then going to third, and then it was like there was a span. So that makes a lot of sense. Where you just kind of get jaded to the industry, where it's like, and I've been there multiple times where I'm like, fuck this. Like, why we're a bunch of broken people trying to break other people when we should be trying to bring everybody together.
yeah,
You know?
and I'm always really positive to to everyone that I possibly can be, unless they're just disrespectful and stuff. And
Same.
I kind of was just burnt out at that point. And then, when I started thinking about kind of get back on stage is when I took the job with High Tech, and I was traveling a lot. Like there's times where I'll stay in 20 hotels a month, different hotels a month, because
That's
I'm
wild.
constantly traveling,
Yeah.
and I wanted to focus on job. I mean, I know bodybuilding is expensive. It's an expensive hobby and stuff. So I wanted to make sure that I was financially stable. And then I started really, getting into the training. I started growing a little bit more. And then finally, like after COVID happened, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm like, I want to get back on stage. Like, I don't want to be 80 years old and regretting it, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, especially when you've already had, like, you were one of the founding fathers. I know when I say that founding fathers, I mean in the generation that we're in now, because every generation they die off in the sense. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
our generation now is like, okay, this is where you're going to start seeing the guys, they're pros now. All of our friends that we grew up with are either pros or they're professionals in the industry where they have supplement shops, supplement lines. They've kind of established, and then once that group ends, then the next group comes. So we're in that spot right now where it's
Yeah.
like I graduated in '06. I'm 37. You're 40 right now?
Yeah, I turned 40 December 11th. Like 3 days before I was on stage, I turned 40.
Happy birthday, you
Yeah,
sexy
thanks,
bastard.
man. I don't feel my age at
No.
all. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
look at I tell people I think at a cellular level I'm probably still like 25 to 30 just cuz I'm still, keeping up with all the young kids that are out there. I can still run circles around a lot of them. So,
Hey, listen, man, if I didn't have growth hormone, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
yeah, I hear you.
that always helps me stay young.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's always a
For
good one.
sure.
But yeah, so when you competed so what got you to get back to competing in 2022?
My fiance is a woman's physique pro.
Yes.
And yeah, so she turned pro at a really young age. She won the overall at USA's in 2018. I think
Wow.
she was like 22 or 23 years old. Um, you know,
Wild.
she, yeah, so she's 30 now. Um, she turned 30 December 26th. So a couple weeks after I turned 40, she turned 30. So,
Nice.
but
There you go.
like she wanted to get back on stage because she competed in COVID. So that was when we got together. So she did Tampa Pro in 2020, and then we took some time off because I moved her up here. We were working on everything up here, and then she's like, "Okay, I want to get on stage. I want to compete in 2022." So I'm like, you know what? I go, I'm doing this too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I still have it. I'm like, I'm like, my mind. I was not always in the best mind space,
Mhm.
mindset, I should say, space of mind, frame of mind, whatever.
Either or at that point.
Yeah, after 2014, whether it was like my support system around me or whoever I was with at the time, it wasn't really a good supporting environment. It wasn't until I met her and stuff where I actually found peace with a lot of stuff. And I'm like, okay,
Mm,
you know what? I'm like, I want to just give this my all and just keep going. I don't have many years left, just because I am getting up there in age. So I'm like, I want to at least dedicate myself and apply myself and just do the damn thing. So
absolutely.
2022, we actually both prepped together. We both did the Tampa Pro show. I did the amateur version. Then we did the Texas Pro. I did the amateur version, and that two shows back to back.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now,
and
let me ask you this, a real little segue, because I
yeah.
think a lot of people, when they're listening to this, they're afraid to prep with their significant other. How was it? Were you guys like snappy each other? Because when you're on certain supplements, like things are, and then diets down, or was it like more of a team where it's like, hey, I'm going to prep chicken, you prep the broccoli, okay, I'll get the rice, kind of aspect where it's like, hey, if you feel like getting pissed off, let me know so I can get out of this room so you can do your shit.
There's been a lot of people that'll say they don't like prepping with a significant other. Her and I worked so well together.
Love
It
that.
was incredible. It was almost like better at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't argue much at all. Like we just took care of business,
Yeah.
and exactly what you were saying. Like we came up with a system, like we cook rice the exact same way each. We cook chicken the exact same, beef the exact same
Perfect.
way. So everything's consistent. We would communicate. Like she'd be like, hey, I'm going to work. I just used the rest of the rice. You have to make rice today. Okay, cool.
Beautiful.
Or be
Beautiful.
like, I'm like, hey, listen, like, there's not gonna be much chicken left. I'm gonna go shoot to the store and grab chicken so we can get that cooked. Or she'd
Dude.
be like, hey, listen, you get the chicken and stuff. I'll cook it while you're doing some
Hmm.
other stuff, because I might have to leave for work or travel and stuff. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that worked really, really well. And then, towards the end, it's like we're both there's fatigue kicking in. You're tired. There's no energy to argue with each other.
No, yeah,
We just
exactly.
be on the couch watching, just looking at each other. I'd just be like, I love you, and then
Yeah, exactly.
we'd go back.
Yeah,
So that was a blast. She's planned on competing again in 2026.
nice.
And I'm taking this year off to grow, and then I'll be competing in 2026. So we might do some of the same shows together if there's like a pro-am version.
You've got a great run right now, my man. Like you're rebounding perfectly. Your coach is Jacob, right?
Yeah, Justin Jacoby. So he's
Yeah,
he's under
Jacoby.
he's under Camp Jensen.
Yes,
Phenomenal coach.
absolutely. He
You know,
came out of
he was
nowhere.
he was a friend. He was a friend beforehand, and he I remember in 2023 I got off prejudging nationals, and I coached myself for that show. I'm like, I can't coach myself at this level.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking straight. I literally sent him a message, and I'm like, hey, you taking on clients? And I was like, it's me. He goes, absolutely. So like when I got off stage, I'm like, I started working with him. Like, you know, him and I clicked so well. Like I know some people always have like phone calls with their coach and stuff. I didn't have one phone call with him. I didn't need to have one phone call all off season, all prep. We just handled everything because we were on the same page. He'd do stuff. I'm like, got it. You know,
Yep.
didn't question one damn thing. Um, and he was a phenomenal coach. He got me to be my best at Long Island, and then 3 weeks later, an even better version of me, which is I think the version that a lot of people have been waiting all these years to see me at.
I'll be honest, man. Your back lat spread is one of the prettiest things I've seen in a long time. You know, and it pays homage. And I'm going to be posting pictures up during our conversation so people actually get to see. And I didn't realize your wife was such a badass. So
Oh, yeah,
like I'll post
she's
pictures of
awesome.
her too. You know, and that makes more sense because like before we got on the show, we were talking just like, you know, how you can't do like the petite little. Oh, I'm gonna sit here and cry because you know it's raining outside. You're like, I need a warrior wife where it's like we're
That's what
going
I'm
to war.
saying. That's literally what I was saying to you before we started recording here. It's like I like she's like warrior class build. She's like a
Yep.
Valkyrie, you know.
Yes.
She's just a
Yes.
badass. Like you know, not like if like there was ever a confrontation with somebody out in the streets or whatever like that, like she'd be like probably shoving me out of the way, just throwing. And the thing about Ashlyn too, which is really cool, and I like to brag about her because I'm really proud of her. You know, she actually used to fight and do MMA and Brazilian Jiu
Oh, shit.
Jitsu. And you know, in Colorado, her hands are registered as weapons. And she actually used to spar a little bit with Raquel Pennington, who's like a
What?
top level UFC,
Yep.
you know, chick. And
Yep.
you know, she's tough. You know,
Dude,
she's fast. She hits real hard. Like she's great. You know.
I'm gonna have to get her on the podcast because it sounds like she's got a whole nother story as well. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, becoming now, like being where she's at now, and then what the previous year she had. And I don't blame you. You know, one thing I can tell is when you prep with a significant other, because I prepped, not my wife helped me prep, and she's kind of understood, like, you know, it's kind of like you got to understand people's vibes. You know what I mean? It's, you
Mhm.
really got to, like, know when to not push the bear. And sometimes just like pull back, you know, you don't have to say anything. But going back to having your wife and you prep, it kind of shows that like you guys were meant to do this. And like I always say, if you can get through a prep together with your significant other, you guys are gonna be together forever because that's the hardest time frame that you're gonna really go through. Because first of all, you're not eating, you're training when you really don't want to train, you're eating
Yep.
shit that you really don't want to eat, and then also at the same time, you're just sitting there, you're trying to have a relationship where it's like those little like, hey, I love you. Because like that's what you really, you know, like because you need to hear it back. Where it's like, am I fucking up right now? And then like with, and again with the drugs in our heads, where it's like, nope, she hates you. And it's like she's being quiet, and it's like, I love you, right? Yeah, like yeah, we're good.
You know what? I will say this, and this wasn't just with prep, but this is something that her and I do. And anyone that's watching, if you guys want to take this advice with like your husband or wife, this has saved us so many arguments where I'll be like, I'm aggravated right now. I just need a vent. I'm probably going to yell. I'm not yelling at you.
Yes,
Or if she's talking to me, I'll be like, hey, let me stop you. I'm like, do you just want me to listen or do you want solutions?
huge,
And I'm
huge.
telling you,
Yep,
this has saved so many things because communication is key. And she's
yep,
like, I'm just upset. I just wanna vent to you. Okay.
yep.
You know?
That's it. That's it.
Yep.
That's all I need.
That's it.
Because we're fixers. You know, as
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
we're fixers. So it's like, you give me a problem, I'm going to say this is how you should do it or this is how you should handle it. So I've recently learned that maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I had a friend, she was like, she was going at it. And I'm like, well, do this. We'll do this. And then she just stopped me. She goes, I'm just venting. And then I just stopped because, again, being a fixer, you really need to hear somebody say that. And the communication aspect's everything, especially if it's the smallest fucking thing where it's like, hey, I finished the rest of the rice. So then I'm not coming home fucking raging. There's no rice now. You know, I can kind of
Yeah.
know in my head, like, we're good, you know? Where I blast
Yep.
off that text message like, next time fucking tell me there's no rice before
Yeah.
whatever, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
But
the dynamic worked really, really well. So definitely blessed and thankful to have found her. And what's interesting is, before she moved up here, her mom was like giving me all these like 50 questions over the phone. And
Yep.
I literally told Ashlyn's mom, I go, just to let you know, I'm going to marry your daughter.
Love that.
That was like the boldest thing I've ever said because I've never
That's a
once
bold
thought that
statement.
with anybody else. And with her, I was just like, I'm like, my mom was right. She's like, when you know, you know. And I'm like, you're so full of shit, mom. And then she said, I'm like, yeah, mom, you were right. Type of thing. Yeah.
Isn't it funny when your parents tell you things and it didn't make sense when you're younger? Now it all makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
My dad was like, I was your age once. I'm not stupid. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. If not, he did worse because there was no cameras back then.
Nope. Exactly. Even when I was in high school, we had no cameras. You know how much damn shit we did that would be
Bro,
screwed today?
I'd be in handcuffs already.
No, it was crazy. I was in National Honor Society in high school, and we were a bunch of derelict rejects. We
Yep.
were just
Yep.
menaces.
Hmm. Exactly. Just and that was the best part. It was not documented anywhere. Nobody had to find anything. That's why
Nope.
you miss the old days because again, sometimes it's just like you lived in the moment for what it was. Now,
That was definitely where it was. You did live in the moment. You weren't just doom scrolling on your phone.
agreed.
You know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm trying to pull away from the doom scrolling. I actually installed a couple of apps to help like learn.
Hmm.
And there's one app actually I thought was pretty cool. You have to do 20 push-ups before it open up your app.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, that's a fucking no-brainer. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of, it'll have to, you have to put it in front of you so it sees you doing the push-ups, and then it'll open up the app, which I thought was pretty cool.
That is
Um,
actually really cool.
especially for like lifestyle clients and things like that, where it's like, listen, I know you're gonna want to doom scroll tonight. I need you to do 20 push-ups.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool like that. Where technology it has its benefits, but also I feel like it's turned the industry to where everybody's like, well, look at me. Well, look at me. And it's like, but what have you really done? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, what
Yeah.
have you really done? Now, you had previously said like you were going through some dark times. Like, were you going through the dark times between like 2014 to 2020? Where were you kind of like, you know, and how did you decide to get out of that? And what kind of helped you drive out of that?
Um. I've had two low points in my life. The one of them I told you about
Yep.
when I first met you, which was the scary one.
Yep.
The one in 2013 was probably like my first like real low one. I kind of lost like I broke up with the girl I was with. Um, Something else happened with a best friend of mine at the time,
Yep.
which I won't get into.
No, you don't have to.
Just because he's not here to say his piece. And then I also lost like my other close circle of friends.
Mm,
Because a few of them wanted to stay neutral in the whole
yeah.
thing. So it was like I almost felt at the time like my entire world just crumbled. So it's like, all right, fuck this. I'm just gonna fucking just move out to Seattle. It was like the
Yeah.
furthest place across. Like it wasn't like California. I moved out to Seattle. You know, and it was pretty good. I actually liked living out there. The meat was really cheap. Like I found a damn
Mm,
good bodybuilding gym out there. Met some people, which was good. And it got to the point where I was there for like 6 months, and I was like, all right. I'm like, I've completely wrecked my credit. I've went through my savings. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, running away from this is just not going to do anything. I just need to face my problems, type of thing.
yeah.
That was a good learning experience, but I'll be honest, that whole period really shaped me to who I am now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be where I am now if I didn't experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
Because
one of those. Sorry, go
it's
ahead.
kind of like you have to go on to your own thing, like go to do your own journey. And when I've recently went through something crazy where like, I thought people were going to be, it's like you're funny. You think people are going to be in your life for the rest of your life. And then it's just like, wait, what happened? And then it's like, I'm a very genuine person. Like I call you family. I call you family.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's the way I look at it in my head. It's not just because we're friends. It's like, no, I'm willing to, I'll die for you kind of deal.
Yeah.
So when that happens and then you went and did your own thing, are you good by yourself or did you have some or you had to like bring people around you to make you feel
You know
good?
what? If I'm being completely honest, I hate to admit this, but in my early like 20s, um, I always had so much stuff to do. I was always around people. Like I never had downtime for myself.
Yeah,
And whenever I did, I kind of hated being alone.
yeah,
I'll be honest. Like I've always been a very, external type person. And now I can stay home. I could be alone for days, whatever, and I'm perfectly fine
yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's just I think maybe like an age plays a role with it too. Like you get older and it's just like things that mattered that you thought mattered before don't. You just don't give a fuck anymore. I don't
yeah,
know if it's that or if it's just other stuff that I've just gone through and experienced that it's just kind of built up, I guess, like thick skin.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've always said like sometimes when like there's a lot of shit going on, there's a lot of chaos in someone's life. Sometimes the only way to get through it is you have to walk headfirst into the fire. And you're
Yeah.
going to come out a little burned. Maybe you'll have some scars, but you're still here, kind of like with that wristband that you gave
Yep.
me, which was great. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, like you're beaten down and stuff, but you're not broken. You're still here, and it's hardened your skin up.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to go through those battles. And I think, like you said, is like, I feel like every man has to, and we're in, like I said before, it's kind of cool to segue to this. Right now, I get a lot of young guys that really don't know Nick's direction. The world's so crazy. They don't really have anybody to look up to. Like, we had Rambos, we had WWE. Like, we had these guys where it's like, I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to be this guy. And then now these kids nowadays, I always try to tell them, like, you need to be by yourself. Understand what you like, understand who you like, what kind of food you like, not because you're paired with other people where it's like you're going with the flow. I always say you got to go off and do your 6 months to a year journey by yourself. So you just being like, fuck it, I'm moving out, says a lot about your personality, because like that's ballsy. It's a ballsy move,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know.
just I literally packed up shit in my. I had a 2012 Hyundai Sonata Turbo at the time. I filled that thing. I played Tetris with that as much as I could. Brought everything else out there. Lived in this trailer park. I mean, I never felt like such a fucking loser in my life, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it
But
was crazy. Then I thought that, right? And then like I had some neighbors and stuff, and I felt bad because here I am calling myself a loser while these guys are doing the same thing, and they were all super nice and helpful. Sometimes
yeah,
they were just down on their luck. Sometimes they just lost a job or whatever, and it was very humbling because it's just
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like I've been in spots where I've made really good money, and I've been in spots where I've literally had $200 to my name, not worrying about how I'm going to pay bills.
yeah,
And it's like you go through those highs and the lows, and it makes you appreciate, what you do have in your life, which is great.
yep,
And it also makes you want to like for me, it's like I never want to go back to that ever in my life. Like I like being just straight piss broke, like piss poor broke, not having money. Like that is besides maybe like a major health issue, that is the most stressful thing I've ever gone through, and I don't ever want to
absolutely.
go through that again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So is that your driving force? Like I said before in the intro, we had a lot of like your heavy lifts. Like, are you somebody that's you take that the scars and challenges in your life and you mold that into something and utilize that in the gym, because you do push weight that most people will never touch in their life. Most people will never even see in their life. How are you able to get to that point of, all right, I'm here, this is where I'm going to go, and I'm going to push it to the limit?
I don't use any of that actually in the gym.
Nice.
Um, Sometimes maybe what what I use in the gym is just pure passion. Just
Yeah.
I just love doing it,
Yeah. Yep.
and it's like I literally played baseball, football. I was a point guard. I played basketball. I even played tennis for a little while, and I played competitive table tennis for years.
Wow.
So I played all different types of sports. And, nothing would piss me off more as if like I fucked up and it cost the game. Or
Yeah.
somebody else fucked up and it cost us the game. And it's like I always did well on teams, but when it's like just you in control of everything, I enjoy that a lot better.
Yeah.
And I was always naturally abnormally strong and fast. Like that was definitely a genetic thing. And you know what it was? It was just like I'm gonna lift this. I wouldn't be scared lifting it. I just work my way up to lifting it. And I would just set goals. I remember the first time I was in the gym, the first gym that I trained at called All Sports, didn't have AC, didn't have heating. We had those giant friggin' industrial fans that were super loud. We'd have portable
Yep.
space heaters. We had a whole set of weights that would do walking lunges in the parking lot through the snow covered in rust. Like, it
Amazing.
was like hardcore, like you could possibly imagine. And I remember I joined this gym and I looked at the 200-pound dumbbells. I'm like, I'm going to do those someday. Like, right first day, I'm like, I'm going to do these one day, you know? And so when it came to just lifting, I've never put any limits on myself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
even
yeah.
there's a lot of people now that are like, you're 40. How you've been doing this for 20? You've been lifting like this for 23 years. Like, how are you still like doing that? I'm like, I just don't put limits on myself.
And I think that's where we're at with the generation where like they see Instagram, all these things where it's like a lot of people put a lot of limitations on their self. Somebody has been through a lot of issues. People always say like, how did you get so far? And it's like, I just didn't look at those limitations on other people. That was only because, oh, this guy only jumped 25 feet. Okay, well then in my head, well, I'm going to jump 26 feet. This guy was only able to lift this much. Well, then why can't I lift this much?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, you got to just do it. So figure it the fuck out and just do it. Because if you start putting those boundaries, like, well, I've never seen anybody else do it, so then you'd be the first person to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When it comes to lifting and stuff, I feel it's very intimate in the sense that it's just like me, in the weights. And it's like, I don't give a shit what anyone else is doing. Like, I'm in pursuit of just being better than I was
Yeah,
before.
absolutely.
Whether it's like lifting something heavier or it's like having better control, getting a better squeeze, like whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my best lifts when I've done them, I'm in like there's nothing going on up here. There's not even a hamster running around. Like, it's just a void. There's nothingness. It is completely clear ahead.
Yeah.
And I'll like this sometimes where I'll literally just like zone out. I'll do the lift and then I rack it. Then I'm like, oh shit, I just did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I like
It's
I
funny
like to
that you
call
say it that way
I
because,
like to
like, when you
call it
look
the
at your 800
utopian
squat,
zone. What was
yeah, when
that?
you look at your 800 squat, you could see in your eyes that you weren't there. Like, as
No.
soon as you got underneath it, you were just like, you could just see you blanked out. And as soon as you got up, you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I
It's
wasn't like
funny they
jumping
say that.
around or crazy. I just was like, oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I remember like looking at the bar, the thing's bending. I'm like, man, I watched Ronnie Coleman do this. And I was like, and here I am doing the same thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then I just got underneath it. And then that was when I just like went like just blank, just
Yeah,
like a
dude.
void, super clear, had nothing going on. It was just executing the rep.
Yeah. Now, did you ever do any powerlifting meets before?
So I did a non-sanctioned meet once. It was at this gym, and I was a bench press only.
Nice.
And I ended up doing it was like 602.5 pounds. So
Wild.
yeah, yeah.
Wild. Did you end up getting it?
I got it. I won the bench. I won the competition. Yeah,
That's amazing.
and it was crazy
dude.
because it went by Wilkes. So
Holy shit.
yeah, it went by Wilkes. So like the guy that was in first place, he was old. He was like 45 or 50 years old, but he did 495 or 500 pounds. So for me to win, I had to do that much.
Yeah. So it didn't even
Yeah,
go, oh, that's even harder. That's
yeah,
even harder. That's like real hard. That's like old school hard right there.
yeah,
Whereas like
yeah.
you can't even play with your weight to be able to be like, well, my weight was this, and then no, it's like no, this is raw power here.
Yep.
Wow, dude, that's fucking legit.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of touch base on a little like when you got into lifting, did you know this was going to be your end all be all, or did you have any other goals before this?
Good question. When I first got into lifting, I didn't. I was kind of a late bloomer in the sense where I really didn't know what I wanted to do for quite some time. Like I know that I liked lifting, and I wanted to take that as far as I could. Did I ever think that I was going to be where I am now from lifting? Had no idea. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was, but it wasn't like this was my goal type of thing. I just
Yeah.
knew that I wanted to be a bodybuilder at some point. When I was in high school and stuff, I actually got into Bentley and Stonehill College because I originally wanted to be a CPA.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then my senior year, I took like an advanced accounting class. I'm like, I enjoy this, but I'm like, I'm gonna be so fucking bored.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I
Yep.
don't know what to do now. And then I originally, I like science and I'm kind of a book nerd and stuff. So I ended up going to Bridgewater University. I was a biochem major there. And
I want to stop you 1 second
yeah,
because so going back that you were a book nerd. So when you were 3 years old in preschool, your uncle gave you an anatomy book, and then you started.
how did you hear about this? Dude, this was okay. So this is awesome. I'm so glad you brought this up. This is no bullshit. My preschool teacher was literally like asking my mom, like, what the hell are you teaching your kid at home? So my Uncle Bill, he when he was in college and stuff, he actually lived in our finished basement at my parents' house. So he lived in the
Nice.
basement. So we called him the Generation One cellar dweller. That's what we called him, right? And he had this fucking thick ass anatomy book. And it was always I would just look through the pictures. I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was this one picture, we called it the gross ear. It was like a hemorrhaged tympanic membrane that was like bulging out of the ear. And I used to always we'd always go and do that. But then, I remember looking at the anatomy chart. My uncle was working on some project for school at the time. So my uncle was like, okay, yeah, like these are your pectorals, these are your biceps, this is your bicep femoris, the hamstring,
Love it.
quadriceps. And I was just like an encyclopedia. I ended up getting diagnosed with autism at 38 years old. So there was a lot of signs as a young kid where I'm just like memorizing this stuff super fast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went to preschool one day and we had show and tell. So I got up and here I am. I'm like, this is your latissimus dorsi. This is your gastrocnemius. I'm 3 years old saying these things, and my teacher, her name was Mrs. Coletta, my preschool teacher. She's just looking at me. And I remember my mom picked me up. My preschool teacher's like, what the hell are you teaching your son? He comes in for show and tell. He's pronouncing words I don't even know. My mom's like,
He's
yeah,
doing them
that was my
perfectly.
uncle. That was my brother Bill teaching him that. So,
That's
yeah,
amazing, man. I had to bring that story up because when I seen it, I was like, that's a good one, and that kind of shows you like, you know, people only see us on Instagram. We only see a couple of videos. They don't realize how smart you actually are. You know what I mean? Like they all think that we're just big dumb meatheads, and it's like
yeah.
when you actually start to understand, like, no, no, no. I maybe looked like a big dumb retard, but at the end of the day, like I can teach you everything about your body that you'll fucking never know about.
Oh, exactly.
I love being able to have those professional conversations with like other professionals, like not even in the fitness world, and they're like, oh, like you are smart. I'm like, yeah, finances are my favorite thing to get into. So it's like when they start talking, it's the same thing with you, where it's like, oh, you're not just saying a lat, you're saying latissimus dorsi. You're saying like you're pulling. So it's a
Yeah.
different world when you're able to give that knowledge out. So it was so funny when I had heard that story. I was like, I got to bring this up because you hitting the front double bi and the most muscular preschool. I'm like, this kind of just it segues into who you are as a person and like
Yeah.
as your life. It was just a cool. I actually really enjoyed
It's
reading that
just
whole thing
it's just
about you.
funny picturing like this little skinny 3-year-old with a rat tail because I had a rat tail at the time. And
Oh fuck
here I
yeah,
am just info dumping on toddlers pretty much.
fuck yeah! This is what it is, dude. The rat's tail. We all had that shit.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Holy fuck!
It's
Oh
awesome.
my god, bro. So, a couple more questions. So, like, what's your favorite day to train?
Oh, hmm. So I have a new training split now. It's working on weak point training.
Mhm.
Um, there's one. It's my last training day of the week. So I do two chest exercises, two back exercises, and then two tricep exercises.
Nice.
That one's been really really fun. Hey Ashlyn, Marcy's calling my phone for you. Sorry.
No, you could.
That's definitely one of my favorite days because it's cool because I get a huge pump in my lats. It's
I was
like
just gonna say you must look like ridiculous with that
yeah,
pump,
yeah. I get to
dude.
do I get to do like I do like a low incline Smith machine press and I do like a converging chest press. I do like um like one rowing exercise that's chest supported for upper back.
Love that.
And then I do one motion, which is like a single lat pull down to the front for lats. And then I get to do like heavy tricep extensions, and I do Smith machine French JM presses.
Dude, though, yeah, your pump must look ridiculous at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
You know, it's like you're training arms, like you train biceps and triceps. It's like you could see and you could feel the connection when you're actually training. It's like, oh shit, this is a different world now.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
Yeah,
and I've changed. Like I do a lot of the movements very slow and controlled, the very explosive concentric part, and it's like it's crazy because like how much how I am right now. Like I still have got lines in my glutes. I'm almost 230 pounds. I've never had that before, and I'm
yeah.
still like kind of in the rebound phase. My food's still fairly low, so like this is what gets
Wow.
me excited for when we actually start to like the full blown off season.
Absolutely, absolutely, dude. Because you're rebounding already without even having food in your system,
Hmm.
realistically, and you're just looking better and bigger. So it's kind of just like when you guys decide to step on the gas, it's going to be a fucking next level.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a next level, which I'm excited for you, man. Because again, I really enjoy your physique. Because again, we're very similar builds in that sense, where it's like I lift heavy, I have that blocky waist, so I got to make my back this big to make my waist look this small.
Hmm.
So it's like I completely understand. So that's why I'm like every time I see you training, I'm like, let's go, Chris, get this shit, bro. You know,
Thanks, man. Yeah.
you know.
And you know what it is I just love seeing people train hard. Like, like even like the one gym that I go to is very busy. And, like there was one kid the other day, it was like he got 225 for the first time ever. And he was like amped up,
Love that.
and I don't even know the kid's name. I just went up to him. I go, fuck yeah, dude. And he was just taken back. Like, he's like, oh, this isn't even heavy for you. I'm like, it was at one point when I
Yep.
was around your age. And I was like,
Yep.
that's kind of monumental. I'm like, seeing people do that gets me amped up. I
Same.
love it because it reminds me of me as like when I was just coming up, like I remember I found like a logbook maybe a couple of years ago. I ended up throwing it out because I had no need for it. But I remember it was like logs of lifts from when I first started, and
Oh shit.
it was like 60-pound dumbbells for like 8 reps on incline. And I
Yep.
wrote like "fuck yeah" next to it. And I'm like looking, I'm like, oh, this is funny,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. It kind of brings you back to where you were at. Yep. That's fucking
Absolutely,
legit.
yeah.
I love that, man. Because again, like I was saying, because in the gym, people are always like, "Oh, that's so heavy," and it's like, listen, dude, you're gonna get there. You know, as long as you stay consistent. I say the difference between me and you is I've just been consistent. You know, that's really the only difference between us and other people. Yeah, you got genetics played in, and like obviously, if you get injured, it plays a big role. But I never like dog shitting younger kids because they're not getting enough weight or whatever it is. Like, no, that's what gets me amped up. You're pushing hard. Oh, that's what I want to see. I will give you respect, even if you got 20-pound dumbbells and you're pressing them, but you're struggling. I know that's going to be your PR. I'm going to give you respect behind that. You know, it's
Absolutely.
that's the game right there in my head. And it sounds like you're the same kind of person where it's like
Same way.
I
I
just
try.
get amped
I
up.
try to be so supportive, and charismatic to absolutely everybody that's out there.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's going to be some dickheads
yeah,
that are
of
just,
course,
that are just going to be a pain in the ass, and they're just whatever. And I'm like, I just won't. I just won't. I won't acknowledge it. I won't even waste my time letting negative energy come into play there. I try to just be
absolutely.
above that.
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Now, my last question for you, Chris, and I appreciate this whole conversation. If you were to give a younger self you advice, what would it be?
In regards to what?
Life.
If I could go back in time and tell myself to do something, I'd say to invest in Bitcoin very early on. When it was like
Put on both.
pennies. Um, I think if I went back in time, because I really could my life be probably better now? Sure. Could it be a hell of a lot worse? Sure. But I feel like everything has kind of happened for a reason. I wouldn't really change a thing. I would just go back in time, and I'd probably let myself know, like, don't let others' opinions dictate who you are
Mm,
or manipulate you, and just like always believe in yourself, because you need to believe in yourself, before anyone else does. Like, because there's gonna be people that'll doubt you all the time. It's like if you believe in yourself and you don't doubt yourself, that's a huge thing right there.
yep.
And just to never give up. And that's like
Yeah.
the best thing there, because it's like I've been knocked down so many times, and I'm just too goddamn stubborn to give up on anything.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that's great advice, honestly, man, because I think a lot of, yeah, like you said before, a lot of young guys are lost right now, and they're just debating like, am I on the right path? And it's like, just believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then nobody's going to believe in you.
I think, you know what? I'll also say this too, and I feel like this doesn't play as much of a role like when I was growing up or when you were growing up, but I feel like I think this will kind of be more towards kids coming up nowadays with social media. You know, it's your life, right? You need to live your life on your terms, right? Don't compare yourself to all these other people. There's gonna be people that they look like they've come out of nowhere and they're super successful when they've been grinding for 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just focus on what you can do. Whether it's like in the fitness industry where you want to get into finance, where you want to do education, just every day, just brick by brick, just keep stacking them up. Keep
Yep.
building your foundation, keep doing all that. Um, don't and it's tough because everyone's with social media, everyone can be so like judgmental, negative, and people like, oh, maybe my boyfriend's not that good looking. I get all these guys in my DMs or something like that. It's like, you know what? Like, don't worry about all the outside noise, all the outside bullshit.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself. Don't care about other people's opinions and just focus on what you want to do and try not to be influenced because it's very easy to be influenced. I mean, that's why they're called fucking influencers because they
Yeah.
influence people, you know, with their snake oil salesman shit and whatever else they do.
Always,
Stupid exercises that don't work that are just,
bro.
whatever, right? It's
I can
just,
go on a whole fucking tangent with
oh,
that.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think just believing in yourself and just not worrying about other people's opinions. If you that when you don't care about that, you're pretty much like unfuckwithable, as
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah. Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing too is like if someone gives you negative energy, use it as fuel. If someone gives you positive energy and is by your side, use it as fuel. If you've got this unlimited fuel source from society, it's like you're gonna do great things.
Yeah. That's a
And
great
don't
point.
be like you're gonna fail. So I've failed more times in my life with so many things, and all it takes is that one time to be really successful, and that's it.
Yeah. It's gonna
So just
stick. At one point, it'll stick.
yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Well, Chris, listen, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was an amazing conversation. I appreciate everything. I appreciate you opening up. Um, you're definitely a pisser. I appreciate just you as a person because you do. I know the back end behind you, and you do a lot for people with people not realizing that you do a lot for them. And again, that's what I want to say thank you because I see it. You know what I
I
mean?
appreciate that. I'm not one of those people that likes to be like, "Hey, I did this for this
Nope.
person." I feel like when you're nice and you do stuff from the kindness of your heart, you're not going to film it. You're not going to post it. Like you just
Yep.
do it.
And that's why, because like I said, like I've seen you do so many of those good things for other people. I want to say thank you because we need more people like you on this earth that are just like just doing this behind the scenes, kind of like, nope, let me move this here. Okay, this guy's gonna be good here. Let me do this. All right, we need that back. And having people like you and as a mentor, it's only going to get better in life for everybody. And again, dude, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'm excited for this year, bro. I'm excited for your off season, and I'm excited for next 26 year 26 because I know it's going to be a banging year for you as well.
It's going to be
Um,
good.
and we'll go from there, big dog.
Absolutely, man.
You have by the way, you have any anything you want to kind of promote? Anything you taking any clients on right now? You know,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
no,
put all your codes in the document in the bottom.
yeah, my coaching books are open.
Cool.
Since I'm not competing this year, I definitely want to focus more on building, my roster. And it doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if you're a competitor, if you're a non-competitor, you just want to fit into a wedding dress. If you're, lifestyle, like I can coach anybody. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I like to teach too. So I'm not one of those guys where it's like, why are you doing this? And I'm just like, trust me, I will literally explain to you why I'm doing something. My
Yes.
only thing is that if you do we do end up working together or whatever, that you give me 110% because that's what I will give you back.
Yeah,
So
and you do because like I've watched a couple of your clients and they're just it's incredible how much progress they're making in such a short period of time. But you can also see it's like you're not just a good bodybuilding coach, you're also a mindset coach because you're somebody that can switch somebody's mindset and go like, what are we doing here, bro? Or
yeah,
it's like I get where you're coming from, but I need you to keep pushing forward because you're going to thank yourself later down the road.
absolutely.
You know?
Sometimes I feel like I'm more than a coach. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a psychiatrist, psychologist,
Yep.
therapist.
Yep.
But you know what it is? It comes down to like I just want my clients to do so well that I will give them everything that I freaking have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just the way, and it's a lot of work, but I,
Absolutely.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. It's who you are as a person because you're giving back to the community and tenfold realistically. So
So.
it's again, man, I appreciate you on the podcast. I'm grateful for you and everything that you do for everybody else as well as myself. And let's have another one later down the road.
Dude, definitely. I would love to.